Welcome back everyone to Hidden History Stories. In today's episode, we're diving into one of the greatest mysteries of Arctic exploration, the fate of Sir John Franklin and the 129 men who vanished with him in the frozen north. It's a story of ambition, courage, and tragedy, where the pride of the British Empire set sail to conquer the Northwest Passage, only to disappear into the ice and silence forever. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and share it with anyone who loves uncovering the secrets of the past. And tell me in the comments, do you think the Arctic still hides untold stories waiting to be found? Your support keeps these forgotten tales alive. Now, let's begin. Picture this: 129 men sailing into the Arctic ice, completely confident they'll return home as heroes. Instead, they vanished without a trace, becoming one of history's most chilling mysteries. It's May 19th, 1845. Two massive ships are cutting through the waters off England's coast, the HMS Erebus and HMS Terror. These aren't ordinary vessels, they're floating fortresses, reinforced with iron plating and packed with 3 years' worth of supplies. Leading this expedition is Sir John Franklin, a 59-year-old polar veteran. This guy had already survived 2 brutal Arctic expeditions. His men actually nicknamed him the man who ate his boots after he literally consumed leather to survive starvation. If anyone could conquer the legendary Northwest Passage, it was Franklin. But here's what makes this story so haunting: they were prepared for everything. Or so they thought. The ships carried 0 tins of preserved food, 0 pounds of chocolate, over 200 books for entertainment, and even a hand organ for music during those endless Arctic nights. The British Admiralty was so confident, they didn't even require the expedition to send regular... Now, picture these 2 ships disappearing into the white vastness of the Canadian Arctic. The last anyone saw of them was in July 1845, when whaling ships spotted the Erebus and Terror moored to an iceberg in Baffin Bay, waiting for the ice to clear. After that, complete silence. At first, nobody worried. Arctic expeditions took time, everyone knew that. But as 1846 turned into 1847, and still no word came back, the anxiety started building. Lady Jane Franklin, Sir John's wife, began pressuring the British Admiralty to send search parties. What happened next would become the largest search effort in Arctic exploration history. Over the next decade, more than 30 separate expeditions ventured into the frozen wasteland, desperately hunting for any sign of the missing men. Think about that, 30 expeditions, all looking for ghosts in the ice. Then, in 1850, searchers finally found something. But what they discovered on Beechy Island would raise more questions than answers. Picture this scene: 3 perfectly preserved graves, their wooden headboards still standing after 5 years in the permafrost. Leading stoker John Torrington from the Terror, able seaman John Hartnell, and Royal Marine Private William Brain from the Erebus. All 3 had died during the expedition's first winter. But here's what was terrifying: evidence showed the entire expedition had camped here, then simply left. Where did 126 men go from this desolate island? The mystery deepened for years. Scattered discoveries trickled in, but nothing concrete. Then, in 1854, something happened that would shock Victorian society to its core. Scottish explorer John Rae encountered local Inuit people who possessed items clearly belonging to Franklin's crew: silver spoons, pieces of uniforms, personal effects. But the stories they told, those were the stuff of nightmares. According to Inuit testimony, white men had been seen starving, dying, and in their final desperation, resorting to cannibalism. Victorian England was horrified. British naval officers? Eating human flesh? Impossible. But the worst revelation was still to come. In 1859, Francis Leopold McClintock's expedition made the discovery that would finally reveal Franklin's fate. Hidden in a stone cairn on King William Island, they found a single piece of paper, the only written record ever discovered from Franklin's final journey. What that note revealed would haunt Arctic exploration forever. The message, written on an official Admiralty form, told the story in cold, bureaucratic language. Franklin himself had died on June 11th, 1847, along with 23 other men. By April 1848, the surviving crew had been trapped in ice for 19 months. Picture the desperation: 105 men, already weakened by nearly 3 years in the Arctic, deciding to abandon their ships and attempt an impossible overland journey to safety. Captain Francis Crozier of the Terror was now in command. His plan? March south across the frozen wasteland toward Backfish River, hoping to reach a trading post or find rescue. It was a death sentence, but staying with the trapped ships meant certain doom. Now, here's where it gets truly heartbreaking. McClintock's team found physical evidence of their final journey scattered along the southern shore of King William Island. Personal effects, abandoned equipment, and most chillingly, human remains. The pattern told a story of men gradually discarding everything they could to lighten their burden. Silver forks and spoons engraved with officers' initials, a hand-sewn Bible, personal photographs. These objects, scattered across the barren landscape, created a trail of desperation that led nowhere. But what they discovered next would puzzle researchers for decades. Why had the expedition chosen the most difficult route possible? Local Inuit knowledge indicated that the eastern shore of King William Island offered better hunting and easier travel. Had their maps been wrong? Or had desperation driven them to make fatal decisions? Meanwhile, modern science was uncovering an even more sinister aspect of their doom. Examination of those 3 bodies from Beechy Island revealed something shocking: extremely high levels of lead in their systems. The tinned food meant to sustain them was slowly poisoning them. Imagine, the very supplies they trusted to keep them alive were making them sick, affecting their judgment, weakening their bodies. For over 150 years, the final piece of the puzzle remained hidden beneath the Arctic ice. Where were the ships themselves? Then, in September 2014, everything changed. Using sophisticated sonar equipment and guided by Inuit oral histories passed down through generations, Parks Canada announced an incredible discovery. One of Franklin's ships had been found in the waters south of King William Island, remarkably well preserved in the icy depths. But here's what made the discovery even more mysterious. The ship was found far south of where the crew had supposedly abandoned their vessels. This raised incredible new questions. Were some men still alive when the ships reached their final positions? How accurate were those Inuit accounts of the expedition's final days? 2 years later, in 2016, the second ship was discovered nearby. Now, here's what makes this story so enduringly fascinating. Each new discovery adds pieces to the puzzle, but the complete story of those 129 men may never be fully known. We have fragments, graves, personal effects, shipwrecks, and Inuit testimonies, but the final days remain shrouded in Arctic silence. Think about it. These weren't inexperienced adventurers. These were the British Empire's finest naval officers commanding the most advanced ships of their time. They had every advantage Victorian technology could provide. Yet the Arctic defeated them completely. The Franklin expedition represents something profound, the moment when human confidence crashed against nature's absolute power. It's a story that continues to captivate us because it reminds us how quickly certainty can turn into mystery, how easily the prepared can become the lost. Today, the legend lives on in Canadian culture and Arctic exploration history. It stands as perhaps the most famous maritime mystery of the 19th century, where Victorian ambition met Arctic reality, and where 129 brave souls vanished into the white silence. Their ships now rest on the ocean floor, silent monuments to human courage and the terrible price of exploring the unknown. The Franklin expedition reminds us that some mysteries are written in ice, and some stories are told not by what we find, but by what remains forever lost. That was the end of the story of Sir John Franklin and the 129 men who vanished into the Arctic ice, a tale of ambition, courage, and tragedy that became one of history's greatest maritime mysteries. If you found this story fascinating, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss more hidden history stories.